But how did you know that that guy told the truth today?
Because they're not giving him speaking engagements. Because he's getting vilified.
I guess I don't see much of what I do over in Europe. Guess I don't see much of what I do anywhere, but this is just a couple of nice German young ladies curious about what I was doing. I'm curious about what I'm doing. But I wish, well, I guess it must be the upbringing, must be the schooling, must be the culture. It'd be sure to be nice. And I do, I guess, find some, young adults that are as polite as nice. But it's nice they came over. I don't know. I did most of the talking this one, but hopefully I got to explain a few things to them and made them open up and have a different perspective. Hit all the right buttons. Contribute if you like it. We'll let you know that what I talked about earlier about it getting crazier out there. This impeachment thing was like giving cocaine to a cocaine addict. Because I'm telling you, the nutcases are coming at me hard. So a lot of the videos coming up aren't going to be as polite as this one. Say the least. Alright, God bless you. Pray for me out there. I definitely need that. Contribute if you can. Hit all the buttons. And I'll see you on the street.
Okay.
Where are you guys from?
From Germany.
Germany?
Yeah.
You got your own problems.
So everyone does.
Indeed. If you have a government, you have some problems. Yes. Yeah.
So this is not like, what do you sell it for? Like, is it a political? Why are you here?
Yeah. This is my artwork.
Okay. Yeah.
And I come out here and I like to get political commentary from people because I think that if we just listen to the pundits, what they tell us on TV, we're going to be lied to. And I think that I trust people more than I trust the governments and more than I trust the news media. So talking to the people, because then I can get firsthand what's happening in your neighborhood, what's happening in your country, what's happening with you. And I think that's where we wind up winning. So that's why we get...
Yeah, we lose our feelings, like intuition, I think. Yes. You always get this from the media, as you said. Yes. You're frightened and you're whatever because they're telling you that stuff is happening, but you don't really realize what's going on around.
Right.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people today, because of the technology, have their nose in a screen and not communicating like this. And I think if we lose this, we lose our humanity.
That's true. And what do you experience here when you're standing here and talk to people? What is your feeling?
Well, it's pretty much across the board. I mean, like people, you're going to get the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah. So, I get all kinds. But again, that's the experience of life. And I get surprised a great deal. I mean, because, again, that's life. You never know what people are going to come up and say. I've met a great many people out here. Today I met a professor of climate science who's an outspoken opponent of the whole global warming hoax. Guy's been a professor of climatology for 40 years. And he expresses how this whole global warming thing is all political. Has nothing to do with science. Nothing at all. That it's just, a hoax to control people. Get people to believe in fantasies that we're causing the Earth has been around for a long time. It has cooled, and it has gotten hotter without us even being here. So it goes in cycles. So then, he just went to explain about how, and he says it's hard for him to get speaking engagements because people don't want to hear the truth. They'd rather believe the lie because the pundits, these guys on TV and the politicians lie to us about it. They tell us we're the cause of all this. We're not.
Yeah, I heard both sides before. It's hard for us to know because we're not the scientists. I feel like it's very hard.
But the scientists will lie to you too. I mean, if you're a scientist and you come out of, let's say you come out of college and you got $200,000 in debt. Okay, the government comes along and says, hey, I'll pay off that debt, but this is what you got to say.
But how did you know that guy told the truth today?
Because they're not giving him speaking engagements. Because he's getting vilified. I mean, and he makes sense. I mean, the Earth runs in cycles.
Yeah.
I mean, and he brought up to me something I didn't know, and I've been studying this for a long time. I helped to start the Institute for Environmental Alternatives in 1971 with Professor Ron Cohn. So I know a great deal about this, but he reminded me of something I didn't know. That the first people to bring up that carbon dioxide, CO2, was a bad thing was the Nuclear Energy Commission, because they wanted to push their thing as being, and in actuality, CO2, we need more of it. We don't need less of it. It's a natural element of life. We breathe it out. That big green thing up there breathes it in. The more CO2, the bigger the plants, the more food we get. The less CO2, we starve to death. So, in actuality, that's why they're pushing that, because here, I'm going to get you down to the skinny of this. The elites don't need us anymore. The only reason they've kept us around this long is because they needed slave labor. Well, now with a lot of us here, and with AI robotic technology coming in, taking up more and more of the jobs we would do, they don't need us. We're in the way because we have ideas and we get things like we want freedom and we get in the way. Robots just do the job.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So the idea of controlling us by limiting our consumption and making it artificial scarcity. In other words, we wind up getting charged more for living a lower standard of living. And then by lowering the CO2, the plants die, we starve. So it's a way of getting rid of us.
They didn't die before, the plants. I mean, before we were there, there were even more plants, and
but plants thrive with CO2. I mean, if you go back to the Jurassic period, there was more than double the amount of CO2 in the air than there is now. Okay. Leaves were this big. Animals were the size of a house. Life thrives with CO2. Thrives because plants grow bigger. We have more food. The less CO2, the less plants. We starve. So this planet right now is actually CO2 starved. So we need more of it, not less. But the powers that be are trying to convince us we need less of it. So we're actually buying into our own starvation.
That's an interesting point.
Well, it's a way of, it's a way of them getting rid of us without having to outright kill us. Instead of having us march into, concentration camps and the showers, we wind up going ahead and killing ourselves.
Okay.
I mean, you understand this is very diabolical. The powers that be know what they're doing. They know about the cycles of nature. They know that what's coming. So they're playing that knowledge against us. They're keeping the secret technologies. They're keeping the things that they won't release to us to make us thrive. Because, again, they don't want us anymore. They don't need us anymore. Me and you have become useless. Henry Kissinger called us the useless food eaters.
Okay.
You can look that up.
Yeah, I know. I trust that it's true. That
So these things that, these are hard truths that I'm out here, I try to talk about, let people know about. Because, again, these guys are lying to us. The last thing in the world they're going to tell us is the truth.
But how should they make any money if we're not there and there's no industry and stuff?
Money? They're making money hand over fist. Who gives them the money? Who pays for them? Look at the commercials, the pharmaceutical companies, the fossil fuel industries. Who pays for that?
Yeah, but if there are no people anymore, like if we're less...
Well, they don't care. They'll promise them Elysium. In other words, look, as long as you lie, because you can see the truth, you can see what's coming. You're going to have a place on the farm. You'll be with us. Just lie to the people. Those idiots are going to die anyway. So what do you care? So just lie to them. And if they say you and your family are going to be safe, what would you do? If you're led into a room and they show you the hardcore truth, this is what's happening. The planet is doomed. We're going into a cold cycle. There's going to be a new ice age. There's going to be a lot less food. Billions of people are going to die. Do you want to live?
Yeah, sure. Who doesn't?
Then you lie for us, and you'll live. So they lie to us. They lie to us 100 times. They lie to us a million ways every day.
I know they do in other things, but this perspective I didn't know before.
Why wouldn't they lie to us? If they lie to us about one thing, why do they lie to another? I mean, I can bring up several. I'll give you, for instance, weapons of mass destruction. They didn't exist. Went to war. Boom.
Pharma industry.
Thank you. 9/11. Everybody knows 9/11 was an inside job. I can hardly find anybody that believes the official story. 19 hijackers brought down 3 buildings. Bullshit. Yet, you ever hear them tell the truth about that? No. So if they're going to lie about 3,000 people getting murdered, what else would they lie about? 3 billion? Who cares? Nothing to them. They don't care. 3,000, 3 billion, as long as they remain alive.
Yeah, that's the thing to think about.
I know. I'm sorry I made you think. Oh, God. Oh, no. Now I give you something to worry about. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Now you got all this time. Tell you, there's things, there's another thing that when you look up about the whole global warming thing and the lies they're told about that, look up the history of weather and climate modification programs. There have been government private programs to manipulate the weather going back over 100 years.
100 years already?
Over 100.
Okay.
I mean, why would it'd be ridiculous to think, wouldn't it, that the military and elites wouldn't try to control, what they could do. I mean, Eisenhower started the Department of Weather and Climate Modification in 1954.
There's a department for it?
Yeah, there's a department for it. You can look it up.
What?
I know.
Officially?
Yes, officially. You can look. That's why I'm saying they don't let you know this stuff. But there it is. You can go look it up. Lieutenant Ben Livingston took that, became known as the father of weather weapons. We used those weapons in Vietnam from 68 to 72. When that was leaked out to the world. They became so enraged that the UN passed the UN Weather Weapons Treaty ban in 1974, banning the use of weather weapons. We don't ban things we don't have. They exist. In 1997, elite Air Force document, 1,500 pages. Weather is a force multiplier controlling the weather by 2025. Tells you exactly how they're going to do it. I mean, so with that knowledge, why isn't this never brought up in any climate debate? And here's another thing, you never hear a climate debate. One of the things I talked about that professor, he says they will not debate me. I cannot get on a stage and debate a climate.
But that's actually what I heard before, that that they select who's coming in.
They will not. Last week there was a guy who said he had a PhD in climate science who was a believer in global warming. I said, wonderful, let's have a debate. He ran from me. He ran from me. I says, where are you going? He says, I thought we were going to have a good debate. I said, what do you want if I teach me something?
Yeah.
He ran.
Be a good chance, actually.
Right, he ran from me. They will not debate because the argument will not hold up. You can blow it out of the water, but you never. I mean, simple things like, well, CO2 is the big problem, right? Too much of it in the air. Okay, when was the last time they ever told you how much of it's in the air?
I didn't.
No, you don't know because they don't tell you. But they tell you it's too much of it. All right, how much is in the air then? Because if you don't know how much is in the air, you don't know what's...
I don't know. I'm sure you can Google.
I'll tell you what it is. It's less than half of 1%. It's a trace element. It's 0.04%.
But isn't it the problem that it's not what it's here, but what it's in the atmosphere?
We need more of it. We could actually use more CO2. Plants would grow more. It wouldn't harm us. Believe me, it wouldn't harm us. It has to get up to 17% before it really, I mean, it'd be like, you have to close the door and keep the car running, just let it until you finally die. I mean, that ain't happening out here. It ain't happening.
I'll keep my eyes open.
Yeah. But these things they lie to us all about. But thank you for asking. Thanks for coming by.
I'm
Appreciate this.
Just getting to know different ideas and different stuff. So.
Yeah. Again, that's why we do this. Yeah. Otherwise, we remain in our own little.
That's true.
We never know. We can never find
in the middle. In the middle of them.
All right. Here's a.
Ready?
Here's a get out of jail free card from Hillary Clinton.
Go like this.
This is good for any crime in the world.
And smile. Look at Mama.
I don't want that. Thank you.
You will be able to go on the back and hear the conversation I had with that climate scientist.
With which one you saw today?
Yeah.
Smile.
Okay.
Smile. Look at Mama.
Do you mind if I take a picture?
Go right ahead.
Look at me. Smile. There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, ladies.